I'm so excited to chat with you today.
So we're here today with Amy Dubin, tea expert. Her industry specifically is Indian tea, and we're going to talk about how Indian tea can help you build culture, help you appreciate where your food is coming from, and what else? Zen. We're experiencing Zen.
It has all those factors, but you know why I like it the most? Why I
Wow.
like Indian tea the most? It's all about style. Style of leaf, style of color, style of cup, everything to do with style. So I love talking about tea as it relates to things like whiskey, wine, chocolate, cigars. Okay, people might not smoke, but okay, fine. But being aware of finely crafted items. So
Appreciating the
sweet.
things, appreciating.
Let's see. I'm gonna make which one? I'm gonna make probably this. Yeah, this is the last of this. So I get samples from all over India. People are always wanting me to try their tea. And so they usually come in little packets this size. This is from South India. A lot of people don't realize that tea is actually grown on a garden. Did you know that green tea and black tea is the same stuff? Same raw material. Green people say all the time, "Oh, I never drink black tea. I only drink green tea."
Oh, I thought it was a different kind of tea leaf.
It's the same stuff. So I explain it like this. You think about a banana, right? It's green, turns yellow, turns brown. If the tea leaves are picked and steamed or pan roasted while they're still green, that's what green tea is. Oolong is equivalent to a yellow banana. Black tea is equivalent to a fully brown banana. And that's it. Oxidation makes black tea black. Crazy, right? Why don't we know this stuff?
So if I like yellow bananas rather than green bananas, am I going to like black tea over green? Is there a direct correlation?
No, it's just it's just an analogy to help people kind of wrap their heads around it. I think I love the fact that you do all these interviews around wellness. And so people ask me a lot, well, I have this thing, like what tea should I have? Or what, asking me these functional things about tea. And so I love that we get to have this conversation because I don't often have the opportunity to share with the wellness community that it is important to know what you are putting in your body. If you are drinking tea for health benefits and something says spearmint tea and you think you're getting the high antioxidants that you're getting in white tea just because it says tea and you think you're drinking tea, it is not the same substance any more than coffee and cocoa are the same drink. They're not. They're different plants, different properties, different everything. It's almost like I think of like an animal kingdom, like they're just simply different species. So when people talk to me about, I'm like, oh, I like coffee. I don't really like tea so much. It's like, it's okay to like cats and dogs. It's okay.
Now you're talking about a health standpoint and like knowing where your food comes from, knowing how it's processed. Yeah. So how do you know how to look for a good tea or a healthy tea?
Great question. First thing you want to do is you want to look at the ingredients list. People are accustomed to doing that anyway. And you want to look for the words green tea, black tea, white tea, oolong tea, pu-ehr tea, matcha tea. These all come from a specific plant called Camellia sinensis. That is what tea is. If it's not from that plant, it's not tea. Tea tree oil, not tea. Jasmine, not tea. Ginger, not tea. It's a root. And so really understanding how to categorize these different substances. Sure, you can brew them, but that doesn't make it tea, right? Pasta water is not tea. You put pasta in water, you're essentially doing the same thing. It's not tea.
So there are all kinds of brewed hot drinks that you can make, but we're talking specifically today, and what you focus on specifically is tea
It's actual
leaves. Yeah.
tea leaves.
What are you making for us today? What was this that you said you were brewing up?
Yeah. So this is an oolong. This is the metaphorical yellow banana. Oolong is the oxidation is stopped between green and black. So some will look a little green, some will look a little brown, but at no time is oolong coming out at a a super bright green or super dark color. So what you'll see what I do is it's all loose leaf. And so people try to get really precise with tea like coffee. There's like, weights and pressure and all the science because you can actually control the amount of that grind with a hard substance like a coffee bean. It's hard. Tea is a leaf. It doesn't behave the same way. So it's called a teaspoon for a reason. You eyeball it. It's about a teaspoon. And you put it in your cup. And you add water. Now, what's going to happen with this style of tea is is the leaves. You see already they've sunk to the bottom, right? They've already headed that direction because there's a lot of moisture, so they're a little bit heavy. So you stir it around and you wait. We're going to give this a couple minutes. This is a super pale yellow color, and it's going to end up being about the color of honey. Now, you asked, how do you know if you've got a good tea? First thing you can look for is clarity. Look at how clean that is. It almost glows. It's not murky. It's not cloudy. There's no confusion. It is perfectly clear. That way you can tell this is a really well-made tea. They didn't put a bunch of filler in it. It's just the pure leaves. Now, already look at the color difference.
It's already getting darker.
It was 10 seconds, right? So with this style of tea, you can actually leave the tea leaves in the water. It's not going to get bitter on you. Better quality tea doesn't get bitter fast. If it gets bitter, it's 30 seconds in there and it's undrinkable, it's off. You can make a good tea bad, but you cannot make a bad tea good. It doesn't go the other direction.
Now, a lot of what you're describing sounds very similar to wine. You have a wine background. So so you look at color, you look at clarity, now you're smelling it. What does it smell like? Tell us.
This one has a vegetal character. So you're going to look at some of the basic flavor building blocks: woodsy, floral, spicy, vegetal, right? And that's one of the first ways to tell that you have a quality tea. Does it smell like something at all? And is that something pleasant? Right? You can have a very strong black tea, the kind you put milk and sugar in. It smells like cardboard, right? It has an aroma. It's not pleasant. Okay. So what you're looking for is an aroma that reminds you of something, where you go, oh, that smells good. That reminds me of, oh, right, freshly cut grass. Yeah, that actually does remind me of my grandma's backyard. And you just keep going and going. It's like wine or whiskey, chocolate even. So you see, it's already getting this honey color as promised.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take a teaspoon of tea and you brew it, the color and style it is designed to be will show. This was never designed to be a black tea with milk and sugar. This wasn't designed to be a green tea. It's too brown. It's designed to be exactly what it is. So that's one thing. Another thing to look at, if you get a box and it says green tea and it comes out dark brown, you're like, maybe it's
Now, you're talking about milk and sugar. Are there tea purists that say you should never put milk and sugar, or you should always put milk and sugar? Or there are some teas that you would add sweetener to or not add sweetener to? Or is this just a personal preference thing?
That is such a great question. I believe personally, if you're drinking tea, however it is you drink it, I'm happy.
You just want us drinking tea.
Just drink tea. Now, there are some teas that are more conducive to milk and sugar than others. Here's a way to tell that you can put milk and or sweetener and or whatever else you're going to put in your tea in it. You look at the body. If you can see through it, it's not for milk. You put milk in green tea. I've had people. I used to have a customer who put cream in his green tea. Whatever. But if it's clear like this, what's going to happen when you add a little bit of milk? It's going to look like dishwater. It's going to be washed out. It's going to look sad, and it's going to be lukewarm, and it's going to be gross. What you want is something that looks like a Guinness, dark color, where you can't see to the bottom, a fuller body. Red wine has more body than white wine. You want a tea that has more viscosity than a green tea. Then you know it'll hold the milk. It'll become creamy, rich, delicious, just as you imagine. Now, what I like to do, just like using salt, is taste it. If it tastes great, you're like, wow, this is actually really smooth. It's not bitter. It's pleasant. I like it. Question. Why cover that up? Because milk mutes the flavor. It mutes the harshness, but it also kind of mutes the flavor. Now, certain teas, the flavor is actually elevated by milk. The way that adding sugar to cinnamon, straight cinnamon's gross, right? So there's a time and a place for milk and sugar. I don't dissuade anybody from doing that. But if you have knowledge of where your tea's coming from, how to assess time and place, I think you'll get more pleasure. You'll have fewer failed experiments. You'll have more appreciation for tea. I get a lot of like, oh, I'm not a tea person. I don't like tea. I'm like, because you've been exposed to crap, and I don't blame you.
You've had bad tea all your life. Now, you said where the tea is coming from. You're focused on Indian teas.
Yep.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier and how they differ from Asian, Japanese, Chinese. And tell us more about what differentiates an Indian tea.
The only thing that makes an Indian tea is that it must be grown within the political boundaries of the country of India. Doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it's simply grown in India. Now, here's another kind of like light bulb shocker moment. Tea's not commercially grown in England. Never has been. English breakfast tea is Indian tea. People have been drinking Indian tea for years and years and years, and I get that all the time. Oh, I only drink Indian tea. Okay, well, that's Indian tea. Irish breakfast tea, Indian tea. Largely 100% from Assam, which is in India, not England. So you're having a little more familiarity with the language of tea really helps with the appreciation, just like taking a music class, right? If you hear a symphony, it's all just like noise until someone says, that's a violin, that's a timpani drum, that's a clarinet. And then suddenly you're like, oh, ooh, right? The curiosity, it creates curiosity.
Yeah. So I keep correlating this to wine, enough because I'm a wino, but it sounds like they're, because it's regional. Do you have regional teas within India? This one's grown in this part of the country. This one's grown.
8 billion%. Yeah. Terroir matters. Darjeeling is a district. It's a city. It's a district in the north of the state of West Bengal. So when people say, oh, I love Darjeeling tea, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you mean first flush, second flush, autumn flush? Do you like second flush black tea? Do you like autumn flush green tea? What are you talking about? And so all of the tea gardens are just like vineyards. They all have their own personality. They all have their own style. Some might be on the shady side of the mountain. Some might be on the sunny side. Some are huge and are like the biggest producers. Some are boutique producers. Some are owned by big conglomerate companies. Some are independently owned. They are all what are called tea gardens. And I'm going to show everybody here what a tea garden looks like, because up until I was 30 years old, I had no idea that tea was even a plant in the first place. So when I saw this picture, I was just floored. Okay, hold on. I'm getting you like a beauty shot. Okay. This was pretty good. This is from Chai, The Experience of Indian Tea. And if I open this up, you're going to see a lot of
Whoa.
right? You see all those like little, you can see each bush. It kind of looks like a hedge that you'd find in front of your house in the suburbs. See, it's like a hedge.
Uh-huh.
And it's pruned like a bonsai, by hand. So when you see some of these, like, hold on, let me get you a field of vastness. Hold on, let me find, oh.
Whoa, a field of vastness.
Like, for example, like here's a tea garden. Tea doesn't grow flat. So all of that for like miles, as far as that I can see, is all pruned by machete, but all by hand.
Wow. And it's like waist high, it looks like little shrubs.
Yep. And then just the youngest little shoots are plucked. So most of the leaves on the plant remain on the plant if it's like during certain production period for photosynthesis. So what you're actually picking that's actually in here are not just dried leaves, but they're dried baby leaves. Hold on, let me get the photo of the baby.
We're going on a photo tour of India.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ooh, okay. Okay, here you can kind of sort of see this woman in the middle. Her hands are on top, right?
Uh-huh.
And holding just like a small handful of leaves. They're just picking the youngest, just the little tiniest babiest. So the bud, the first leaf, and the second leaf, traditionally called tuna bud. And that'll give you flavor, because the most flavor's in the bud, but picking just the bud is super expensive. That's largely what white tea is. Just the bud and first leaf. Picked and dried. That's what white tea is. The reason it's called white tea is because the color in the cup is so light, because that little tiny pinprick of a place it's taken from the plant, that's the only place that it has to oxidize. If you think of a tea leaf like aloe, how it's real juicy inside but dry on the outside, same thing with tea. So where that tea leaf comes from, that juicy bit is now exposed to oxygen. It's going to start turning color, but it's not going to be a really dark color. But if those cell walls are broken with rolling, like imagine leaving a piece of lettuce on the table, like a piece of romaine. 12 hours later, you're going to go like this and your hands will be wet, right? The cells are now exposed to oxygen. With tea, that is what's giving it.
Oh, look how dark it is now. Whoa.
And that's all it's going to be. So
is that tea done brewing now?
It's done. It's sunk to the bottom. The leaves themselves have fully unfurled. You see how fluffy they get. So you don't need too much. That's why you eyeball a teaspoon, because you need room for it to grow just like pasta. Now let's see how the aroma's changed. It has changed substantially. So that's something to enjoy and appreciate, that you get other layers of flavor.
And how does it smell different now than it did a few minutes ago?
It still has a slight grassiness, but it is much more woodsy. And I would say, and then you can kind of go the next layer. So there's woodsy, oak, like it almost like you can smell the tannins. It's like kind of tanned leather, a little bark, a little mulchy,
a little funky.
Yeah, well, it's not, but it's not mossy. It's not wet and heavy.
It's not an Oregon forest then?
Oh my God, it's so good. It really, you get this kind of carameliness, the sweetness comes out in it, and it's so smooth. No bitterness, no nothing. Even though the leaves are in there and been sitting in there, no problem.
Nice. Now, some of what you do, you were telling me earlier, is you take groups to India on tea tours.
Yeah,
And are you doing that currently in the current state of world affairs?
I'm looking at February. My last one was January of 2020. I came back February 1st of 2020. Oh my God. Very lucky. Um, but India, yeah, I'm looking at February, I'm looking at October as possibilities. Here's the main thing to know about traveling in India. The summer is brutal. Say it with me. The
Summer,
summer,
no summer in India. Too hot.
brutal.
Too hot.
Yeah. Now,
Spring and fall.
especially if you're from the Pacific Northwest, intolerable. But I feel like I'm a pretty hardy traveler. I have very little complaints about all manner of travel circumstances, but it's too like you just can't enjoy yourself. It's just too like, and then of course like the weird bugs come out because it's hot and it's muggy. It's just awful. Ugh. But so the best time of year to be in India is between October and around, I would say you need to be heading home by about March. It's already like in over like 90, 95 by the middle of March. I was there at one point in May. I thought, oh, May's not going to be that bad. So,
That's just about my Florida window. I have to make my travel in between, yeah, fall, spring.
mm,
Now, I found you on LinkedIn, but how can people find you if they want to learn more about tea? What's the best contact info for you?
of cake. There's a couple different things. Website, janamtea.com. Email, amy@janamtea.com. All social media at janamtea.com. And finally, if you really have want to talk about being present, that is one thing I love tea for, because this cup of tea has never existed in all of time and space. Out of all of the thousands and thousands of years of our world's history, this tea has never existed. And when it's gone, it will never exist again. I won't be able to ever get this back. So when I talk about tea and being very present and mindfulness, having that appreciation for what you have when you have it is so important. You saw when I first put these leaves in there, the color. Is this the same cup of tea as it was when it started?
Nope. I love this concept of being present, mindfulness, being in the present moment. We do a little meditation at the end of each of our fitness classes, and we're going to do a gratitude series coming up this into this month, leading up to Turkey Day. And if we could just practice a minute, 5 minutes of that a day of being in the present moment, being where we are instead of forward thinking, backward thinking, right? I feel like we're going to solve all the world's problems, Amy. Tea, being present, community building,
Trust building,
trust building.
intercultural communication, thoughtfulness, sustainability, flavor design, relationships.
Relationships, that's it. That's where it's at.
There is zero chance this little girl from Columbus, Ohio would be representing Indian tea on a global stage if it weren't for relationships. And it's not, and I don't mean it in a like, oh, because I'm friends with this person, like they let me do that. It's because when you build those bonds with people whose language you don't speak, whose culture you don't understand, whose food that you don't eat, something magical happens. That kind of like goodwill between nations, between people. Tea has the power to achieve all of those things.
I love, there's our soundbite. All right.
Well, you're the best. I've had an absolute ball chatting with you.
Yes, this was so much fun. I'm so glad you were available for our little visit.